When I was a child, I dreamed about becoming a radio presenter. In my village, I would always see people gather around one radio set and they're listening to issues coming over the radio. My role as a journalist is that I am a watchdog. I report and present on issues that impacts on people's life, especially health. In Uganda, we are struggling to bring drugs and health services for free to all our citizens. And we are also helping people understand that they have a human right to good health. I visited a Duku Health Center to find out the problems that the patients were facing. When I was visiting a Duku Health Center, I met this father, Yeko, with his two daughters. Yeko is a poor farmer who earns less than $1 a day. His two daughters have both been sick.
We found that the BS is positive. There's malaria parasite in blood. Now I've diagnosed the condition being malaria and I've prescribed some treatment here, the cotton, which this cell has to take for 3 days, and Panadol for fever. This is still uncomplicated malaria, but it can become complicated if it's not treated, because the child has to get treatment within 24 hours of this diagnosis.
So what do you advise them to do? But for the meantime, you don't have quota?
For the meantime, I'm not seeing
40 key medicines that treats the most common diseases are available in government medical facilities only after time.
In Uganda, there is a drug shortage at the facilities. The drugs come after every 2 months, but not in the quantity that can serve our population. Not in
Septrin is not there. There's only one box.
As I talk now, we are lacking oral antibiotics. It's not very nice. When you see a patient, you have diagnosed and you have nothing to give.
I look at my patients, I know what I have to do for them, but I cannot do it. I push the issues up, nothing is done about it. Then, what do I gain? Just sitting, talking to them. I know it's a kind of psychological treatment to the patients, that at least our doctor is here talking to us, he is a good person. I get that. But what does it mean to them? My smiles will not heal them of their ailments, no.
You lose morale of working. That is the dilemma we are in.
In the history of Uganda, there is a strong understanding that we can use human rights to prevent, for instance, torture. But this is not the case when it comes to people appreciating the fact that they have a right to access health care.
Because people were more aware about women's rights, children's rights, but health was not among those ones. So, and even the communities would be surprised to know that actually health is a human right. So we train leaders who in turn also train the communities on their health rights and their responsibilities.
Wana chala dano ti uno ke Twero adano. Adoi kom Twero dano ne ti uno ke Twero menungo. Me bera me kom wayot. Gamente wa chi hera me mi wa kon me nono me lo bera ke yota kom wa ida hatale amo bera ma gamente.
The right to health can be translated as a Twero me yot kom. In other words, the community have the right to access quality health care services, and the government has the obligation to render such services.
It's prescribed in our constitution. The patient is entitled to certain things. They're entitled to drugs being available, services being available. The healthcare services have to be accessible. They have to be of a certain quality.
For sure, the politicians can get out there and make it very loud to people. We are providing this, we are providing this, and when it comes to the implementers, you find those things are not there.
This country says there's free health services, but according to World Health Organization recommendation, this country is supposed to have at least $40 per person per year to give the expected minimum standard of health care. However, if I talk about the budget, the national budget that we're running now, it's only $9 that are available, less than a quarter. So right from the beginning, we can't have enough supplies.
I don't think government lacks the resources to provide for drugs. The drug supply system is rather complex, and the bureaucratic system itself is complex. So while drugs may be available, getting them out may be difficult because of the process involved. As a result, we often read in the papers of drugs being banned by National Drug Authority because they are expired.
Also, there are people taking advantage of the limited resources to make them seem like the resources are not even there. So then corruption also enters. So limited resources give a gap to corruption, because then people in responsibility can hide behind the limited resources, so that even the little that is being released does not reach the people who need it.
When one is sick and the facility does not have drugs, of course, the only option is to tell them to go and buy drugs from there. private practitioners.
There are two different health sectors in Uganda. We have the private and public sector. When you go to the public health sector, there is this problem of drugs, not enough for the patients that visit the health center every day. But when you go to the private sector, there's this problem of overcharging the patient. Yeko must raise money for medicine before approaching the private drug dispensaries. He must buy medicine for his daughters. Medicine that should be free. As they come home, there's nothing to pick immediately. There's no money in the bank. There's no money at home. He must sell one of his family's primary assets. Yeko hopes to get 10,000 shillings for his chicken in the nearby town. The owner of the chicken wants 10,000, but the buyer wants to give him 8,000. So he has reduced to 9,000, but still the buyer is trying to say it should go to 8. 8 is better. The chicken only raised 8,000 shillings. So treatment for malaria of an average child of about 12 years is going to be 8,200. That is for one child. Now since he has two children, that means he has to part with 16,400 for the two of them, or something relatively that. But for now he's going to buy only one. Now that was meant for one child, but they're going to share between them, the two of them. And then tomorrow again when he gets money, then he'll buy another drug. Then they'll keep treating themselves that way. But to see that Yeko was not going to treat this child because of lack of drugs in the public health center, it was so sad and so sorry for me. Because any time, I would imagine this child is going to lose her life. Is it that one?
The clear fact that families are dividing medicines shows that there is failure on the part of the government, shows that the communities are left with nothing but to go with ways like division of drugs, which shows a sense of hopelessness within the community. And we think that that is inhuman.
It is unfortunate that doctors in Uganda, they work almost 24 hours. Because you find there are some districts which we only have one doctor in the whole district. And like if you see, like in the whole of Lancet sub-region, I am the only senior consultant. That's one of the problems, where however efficient you are, even a machine has to get a time to rest.
With these huge African populations, especially in Uganda, we are more than 30 million. With all these problems, we go to public sector, we are too many, funding for health is too low, we don't get enough of what we are supposed to get. So what do? Population overflows to private sector, where they can get better services.
Most of us who now work in northern Uganda, We prefer to work in private sector. Some work both in government and also in private sector. The main reason is because of the pay. A senior consultant or a consultant doctor in Uganda earns equivalent of $700 take home per month, $700, which is something very meager considering the level. So if you want to make ends meet, you have to work in the private.
On the table, the voice of Now FM.
A studio kanya bedo Jorech. Ya mutu wa dikuni obedo kede muta mekwa kome dakatal. Otia mako tuwa pole dakatal pi banya menuoti kombia megin peo chulo. Umahogi na hanikwanyo kao chulo banya no te gonyogi. Do yina chara tedero. Itama ni ngoi kodi jama mebedo ni aman.
We learned about the case of Esther Ayugi from Voice of Lango radio station. We moved in to investigate, and we found that the facts were true. Esther Ayugi is from Lira, and she was detained for failure to pay her medical bills.
Wana tinu wartua ene ate or te bichata ranga keri gwen yungi adungu chulo kilini kopia yera tanna lakario boda moreno ko ni awobi warter malai kilini ko don doctor Ichao tunu, te dang tunu, te ko binenu nurse, tutumia chiel, nene doctor, tutumia rio. Eka wano te chulo laka chiel. Ichao chulo laka chiel, doctor te menya, te nunguni ya tapoko. O te ko bania put kuno nina rio. Wari chia ngwen, chia bich, chia miya, chia ngwen o te miya yat. Atia mato, chia bich o te miya yat, chia bich chiel te yanga cha pa rio, me bay.
Northern Uganda is a poor area, abject poverty. The biggest challenge we usually get in the private sector is one, patients are not able to meet the cost. They are not able to afford it. If a patient comes to your facility, sick, needs operation, then you start thinking of money first before you help the patient. That's the part which is unethical. But treat the patient first. If the patient has recovered, then definitely you demand for payment. The ones we tend to detain are those who come as emergency. Sometimes we prolong their stay up to around 3 or 5 days, thinking that maybe they will go and get some money from some other place.
Where a person is unable to pay, and if a clinic is compassionate, they forego the charges, and grudgingly they release the patients to go. But those that are not compassionate hold the patient, and the patient's relatives have to come to the aid of the patient.
This is of detaining patients. Actually, it's not detention, actually. Because when we give you the service, you get here, we work out our bail, then we wait for you to bring the money. So not that we are detaining you, no. We assume the relatives. They are out there looking for the money to come and what? Bail you out.
By the time we heard about Esther's story, treatment had ended long ago, 2 to 3 months. Now, keeping Esther up to this time, 3 months, would mean Esther is a prisoner.
We also learned during investigations that Esther's son had been forced to do manual labor and he was also working as a guard at the doctor's clinic.
Machiel doctor ti ko mama na monan pa ma kwera kem ena do ngata wango yalo idu ma para shele neno ya ko ni mama na ko ni e ka idu ma para ryo doctor ta me ya ta bereskar wan ya cha kanu
doctor to jatini pingo ngata wurtua ko mi ya en amane ni te kidano lui onuojo mia tina ni na chiela chiel chamo dek e kate tuni tieno to mi chiling mia bir cha wili dek kede makar ame anna chamo enanga chamo me tieno idi chieng o mi chiling o mi gi chiamo amane te kidano lui pa mi yo kit tiene mar kiken
pen kuna yiniti yana ya rama kede bu
yara mene
me ajel takide ti kuna ya ibere tuo ye tuo ame yiniti kuna ya peti ya malu me ya idatal ti do nyoro takido nyoro ibinu itebinu panyo na se ka uye ni worry temi idakia
and yet he knows it's not true. Everybody knows it's not true. So how was he being detained? Was he under lock and key? Huh?
Doctor Kobe take be Juan Berry counter. Need take ando pe adonyo take ana donyo heta analu yoko malang talu yoko eto anu na ru chunya no ana ru ngoeno tiu no pera malu ikuna
pero ti waraha perang timi yatina ni chiling mia bira kobni eto ngato ki ken pedo worlima yi dwe ma dek chaka dwe ma rio i dwe ma rio wando to beri peho i dwe ma dek wano ti wi peho.
Detention of patients who have not paid happens everywhere, in big cities, in even smaller clinics. Currently, even I have a patient I was supposed to have discharged 2 days ago, but she is always saying, okay, tomorrow they will bring the money, tomorrow, the next day they will bring the money. So we keep detaining according to the time she is saying the money is coming. But some can stay up to 5 days or 1 week. Then you know exactly they are not going to bring the money. When we consider using our utilities, the bed and the accommodation and so on, that's when we prefer to discharge them rather than keeping them here.
If you can't get paid for your services, you can sue in a civil court. Of course, it's a long process, but it's the proper process.
Claiming the money from the courts can even be more costly than the money you are trying to claim. And it is time consuming. Sometimes it can drag up to for 1 year claiming that amount. And also, most of these patients who abscond, who run away, are they themselves very poor. So you go to the court, then they say the person is supposed to pay, but where is he going to get the money?
Ami peka wani tengeye, beri jome o pisi mo pig bada. Ami nadano me o pig bada. Achaki binu gite mi ya tutu miangwen. Icha ginu tunu mene na mineni. Jote ko beni imate ubere ni John Rike che doko chabira chiel. Teko biya down one pa warro pera warra lo wakare. Pien kid gino ke kana chamang pe.
Patients need to be protected, but beyond that, people need to be aware of expectations. You see, private clinics must survive. Okay. They pay for their staff, they pay rent, they must purchase drugs and equipment, they pay tax. And so patients who opt to go for care in private clinics need to be aware that they must meet the costs.
Why she went to the private sector when she knew she can't afford it? Most likely the reason is she had tried out a government hospital and she couldn't get the service. Yeah. So, and many cases like that happen. So people who are not as brave, I think she's a brave woman, people who are not as brave, once they go to the government and the service is not there, they go home and maybe die.
Esther was finally released when the story came out. The doctor felt ashamed and really wanted the story not to continue, so his clinic could continue making more money.
Nyame wer radio na nuoni ukonya, pien rikan mira bet kunu na kodi karni. Kono nyoan peta gwa kotino nani. Pingoy dugo na kada duga tia goro, tia gwa kotino.
Doctors are untouchable because they are very few, and you will need a service sooner or later. So if you sue them, that could spoil relations between you and them. And at the end of the day, you need this service more. So so people kind of take the horrible treatment. I mean, I would take it because I know the situation. With Esther's case, investigations are now complete. What's going to happen next is that it's going to be presented before the tribunal, and a decision will be made. If it's found in Esther's favor, could be an order for the doctor to pay money to her for having detained her unnecessarily, and hopefully the decision will also deter other doctors or other medical professionals who detain their patients for failure to pay.
Shaki me word, gin pepenya, ni malanga. Anako ni ya, wang pala po siyang. Teko bibal ni kono. Munun wan pot pangyo ni, nyogin na kwedo. Teko bi balana don kay clinic. Teko bi clinic kwene. Anako bi megwa clinic. Doctor ya nyo don.
A medical form in Uganda is very important because it gives history to the sickness of the patient. If you want to go to another clinic, the medical personnel or the doctor in that clinic would want to follow the history of the sickness. That's when they can take another step. So to me, a medical form in Uganda is like life. Because without a medical form, you may not be admitted or given any medical assistance in other clinics or health centers.
Poto mi yakare ni yatara kiel. Otoko bani ya duwaka naka bo doctor don.
If government facilities were well equipped, the doctors are there, everything is in place, such situation wouldn't arise. And also, a kind of subsidy should be given to these private clinics so that they reduce the charges directly levied to the patients. I think this is a way we can avoid people getting stuck with bills that they cannot pay.
Health as a human right is not abstract. Maybe it's because people have been looking at it as an abstract idea that the healthcare system is failing. But if you know that there are people out there who are demanding, and rightfully so, access to this service of good quality, availability of drugs, then the government will work towards making this a reality. And that's where the human rights angle comes in.
The state keeps quiet. If its population is not demanding, it keeps quiet and it takes advantage of the ignorance of the people. So part of our work is to bring out these voices to the people through the courts of law, through raising more awareness on radio, through the journalists, such that people begin to appreciate and that the voices of the people are brought to the government.
Ginando tamani timere. Aran wata tamani ba wuna de tibi no barni. Mi balo na bala wang pala ni kwer chanko.
Na pati chulo bayan kere bali. Tipo do yin tawni mir kere kom doctor don.
Mir wuni mi ka mi wu balo.
Keken.
Pingo dana mo yan te konyi. Kenen kilini ka warie. Abi e ka to kwer yanga ko ni ka yanga to ko ente di chunye te yanga te kwa.
Mir ni perang ron pido don.
Atiko mami ti mi wu ka balu. Wuni te mi ya.
Waafrika milele na milele, watoto kwa 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 Waafrika milele na milele.